Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss rising gas prices and how poor administration policy contributed to this. When President Biden took office, he wasted no time targeting American energy production. And you can guess what happened next. The markets responded. So gas prices were already rising well before Putin's attack on Russia. What's worse, we had the chance to prepare to unleash American energy prior to the Russian invasion with full foreknowledge that that invasion was coming. Instead, largely due to administrative failure, we forced the United States and our allies to increase our dependence on Russian energy. The gap left by less American energy exports directly funds Russia's invasion of Ukraine. That's shameful. We could talk about administrative malpractice for hours. Unfortunately, I only have 5 minutes, so let's move into some questions. General McMaster, nearly 1 year ago, Russia was massing troops at strategic points all along the Ukraine border, the largest presence of Russian troops since the invasion of Crimea during the Obama-Biden administration. Despite this, the Biden administration continued to push policies that attacked our energy supply and our exports to Europe. General McMaster, do you believe those actions, such as canceling the Keystone Pipeline, emboldened Vladimir Putin?
Congressman, I do believe this was an element of Putin's calculus. He believed that we're weak, right? He's looked at our internal divisions. He's looked at policies and actions like the surrender to a jihadist terrorist organization and our disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. And I think he also looked at our energy policies and believed, hey, I have coercive power, especially over Europe's economy, and there'll be a muted response that he thought would be kind of similar to the weak response after he first invaded Ukraine.
I'm going to move on to Mr. Sheffield just for a moment. You mentioned in your testimony, Mr. Sheffield, the oil and natural gas we produce proved a geopolitical asset for the United States. Can you list just a few of the federal and state regulatory obstacles that are restricting your production and transportation of oil and gas, American oil and gas?
Yes, we need more pipelines, both oil and gas. For instance, use Keystone, for instance. If Keystone would have been built 6-7 years ago, Canadian production would be up another 1 million barrels a day going to the Gulf Coast refineries. That's an example. You have to make long-term decisions to help the industry. But there's not enough oil and gas pipelines. There's not enough LNG plants. We need LNG plants in the Northeast. We have the largest gas field in the world in the Northeast. It's too expensive to get the gas down to the Gulf Coast. We need to build LNG facilities in the Northeast. Those are examples.
Well, I thank you for your clarity on that, Mr. Sheffield. I really do. And I appreciate we'll take that home. Back to General McMaster. General, while the Biden administration continues to push the industry towards developing and adopting renewable energy technologies, the United States is highly reliant on imports of the minerals and the production of the materials that are used in renewable energy technologies. So with the vast majority of those coming from China, I cannot fathom why we want to become more dependent on China for energy. Doesn't this play directly into China's goal of world hegemony?
It does. What Xi Jinping wants to do, Chairman Xi wants to create a dual circulation economy in which he is insulated from any kind of financial or economic ramifications for his aggression against his own people and internationally, and he fosters dependence on him, especially in the emerging data-driven global economy and on energy in particular. If you think it's bad for oil and gas infrastructure in the U.S., hey, try to get a mining permit for some of the minerals that are essential to generating, the batteries and the magnets and the renewable energy hardware and equipment. So it's vastly important. I mean, it's 16 to 20 years to get a mining permit in the United States. So we have a lot of work to do, Congressman, in removing regulatory barriers to become more competitive and to ensure that we don't trade one dependency for another in the form of renewable energy.
Well, thank you very much for that clarity, especially as it applies to the mining of all the essential minerals and commodities that we need to go to renewable technology. That was an outstanding point in your testimony as well. Thank you very much to all the witnesses, and I yield back, Madam Chair.